So I generally come down to this hill that's on my campus, and I just lay down on the hill and I look up at the stars. You probably won't be able to see any stars. The camera on my phone is not that great. But I usually come here when I'm having a deep moral dilemma of some kind. And I think the one that I'm most angry at the moment is, or not really angry, just most despondent about, is the lost sense of human communication when it comes to being able to talk to people and feel like you're talking to another person and it's not just a blank wall. I feel like as a person, I grew up in a generation where using the internet for communication and talking to other people replaced talking to people in person and doing things in person and being able to speak to people outside of an online medium became just common, especially after COVID. As with most things, COVID really messed up being able to talk to people, but I think as of right now, I have become increasingly just disappointed with communicating with people via text. It feels like you lose the human who is talking to you, because when you're texting with somebody, it's not very deliberate. If you're talking to somebody via text, I think one of the most common things to do is to use acronyms. You use LOL, LMAO, Jesus, there's so many. I can't tell you all of them. But there are so many of these acronyms, and it feels like a text message is actually just a rushed conversation that you don't have any stake in, that you could have in real life had this conversation for maybe a 1 minute interaction with somebody and then left, and it feels like you've done nothing. And I think to me this is proven by the use of acronyms, where you're trying to shorten words and sentences, creating a different language to fit a fast communication style, because you want to be as fast as you talk in real life when you're talking face to face with somebody. You want to try to imitate that. So the best way to imitate that is to make your writing faster, to make it feel like you are having an instantaneous conversation, but you're not. You're talking to somebody, and, well, it might not mean anything. And it made me realize that trying to connect emotionally with people is incredibly difficult on the internet. It is incredibly hard to know if the other person on the other side of that blank wall feels the same way as they would in real life when you're staring at them from across the table. Because truly, it feels like if you're talking to somebody about how their day went, and it's over text, you can describe how it is, but you're never going to see somebody's face, you're never going to read their body language, you're just going to read a wall of text which has been shortened. I think that sucks, honestly. It's why I write letters. I don't know how common it is. I actually have never received a letter from anybody, and I I mean anybody outside of a thank you card. And I feel like it's something that has been lost because of the use of technology. We replaced this extremely intimate, very personal act of writing something for something fast, for something with instantaneous gratification, where you know instantly that this other person cares about you and that they want to be with you. But a letter, a letter, to me, it has so much more weight to it. It meant that somebody decided to take the time out of their day to grab a pencil, a pen, a piece of paper, and write you something. Write you something that had nothing to do with this linguistics that we call text messages, or the equivalent, which is whatever app you're using. And I genuinely feel like that is so sad that I might never receive a letter from another person ever because text messages exist. Don't get me wrong, text messages are good. If I want to go study and do homework with somebody, I'd much rather send a text message than be like, hey, want to do a physics exam study session? And I send the mail like a week in advance, and I hope to God that they get the letter and that I show up at the place and that they're there because they saw the letter. There's a lot more variables with sending letters, don't get me wrong. I'm in a very privileged position where I can go and hand to deliver letters to my friends. I can go to their house, put it under their door, or tape it, or just put it on the inside of the screen door and then just leave. But it makes me really sad because it makes it feel like the world is pretty fake. That the depression rectangle that we call a cell phone, a supercomputer, is the best creation on earth. I know it's a pretty common thing inside of middle and high school, where you have a pen pal. Generally, it happens with foreign language classes, but you have a pen pal, and then you send them a letter. I had one pen pal, and I think I got 2 letters back over the course of 2 years. And that was weird, because it was like I wouldn't count it towards like a letter from a friend, because it was truly like I'm talking in extremely broken French, and I'm telling them that I have brown hair and I love l'ordinateur. And so it didn't have any human connection inside of it. It was just like, oh my God, it's a person. But I think what made those letters special is that it was a person. There was a person on the other side of the world that spent time writing this letter. And they sent it back to the United States, and they distribute it to whomever's in the class. And I got it. I got a letter. And I honestly have no recollection of what was in the letter. I don't remember who wrote it. I remember there was a video for the class that wrote it to our class. That's it. I don't remember anything else. Because that letter didn't have any emotional weight to it. It was just, oh. I'm doing this for a class. I think if I were to write a letter now as a 19-year-old, I feel like I would try harder. There's a lot of things that you don't realize that you should try harder about when you get older. Like keeping in contact with friends. That's, I think, the reason why I struggle with a text message is it doesn't feel like I'm talking to my friend. It feels like I'm talking to a brick wall that sometimes has scribblings on it and maybe a happy face. And it doesn't feel like I'm talking to anybody. It feels like I'm just sending something off that'll be transcribed. It just feels like people have forgotten how to talk to each other when it comes to the internet existing. And I feel like if people were to not forego writing a text message, but to send a letter to their friend or to a family member, that they could realize what is important to say. I wouldn't, in a ideal situation, like I have a free open Saturday, I got nothing to do, inside of a text message I might send 10,000 messages. Probably not, I'd probably send like 15. But I might send 15 text messages distributed among maybe 5 people. 5 text messages per person. But like each of those text messages might be something random. It might be like, oh, what's your favorite coffee? What did you do today? Did you have a good time? Did you survive going to the gym? But if I were to write a letter, you get one shot. You get a piece of paper. You get maybe 5 paragraphs at best if you're really, really small in terms of your handwriting. And you will not know if the other person has read it. You will have no confirmation that the other person has ever actually read what you've given them. And the only way to know is if you ask them later, or if they tell you at some point that they read your letter. And I think that letter you would not talk about what your favorite coffee is, how was the gym, what did you do last week. You would say thank you. You would ask somebody something that is important. Like I say in my letters, thank you for just inviting me to something. Like, thank you for inviting me to a club. Because I can say that. I can walk up to a person and say, thank you for inviting me to a club. I can send a text message, but no, I spent time. I wrote it down, and this proves that this was important enough that you should read it. That you could keep this message, and it won't be lost in a text chain from 2018. You could say, I'm sorry for how I acted. This is physical proof that I'm willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, this is physical accountability of my actions. This is who I am. I'm sorry. I did this. Here is my thoughts. Here's what I thought was important. And here is the next paragraph where I say I'm sorry for what I did. Because you can say that. You can say all of that in a text message, but but it's not really truly a conversation with yourself. You're going to be perfect in that text message. You're going to have the right grammar, you're going to have the right punctuation, unless you intentionally mess up spell check, but inside of the letter it's going to be you. It's going to be you writing the letter I, and it might not have the correct sizing at the next time that you write the letter I. You're going to misspell words. You're not going to put a period where you're supposed to. It's you. It is a human production of mistakes. And it took time, and it took you saying that I don't know if this is the right thing to do. I think you should write letters to people that you love and you care about, because it's going to be you. It's going to be you on that piece of paper. It's not going to be some spell check, perfect grammar, some acronym. That's you. And it's hard to keep in contact with people if you have a view like mine, where you should send letters to people. But I'm going to ask my friends who don't live near me if I can have their address so I can send them letters. I think that'll be fun. It's more like, I've always thought that letters have been important. So ever since middle school, whenever I made a thank you card, I would include a crossword puzzle in it. I would draw a picture. More recently, I would have a detailed paragraph followed by a picture that I drew from a reference. I would spend upwards of 5 hours writing 3 thank you cards because it means something to somebody else. Because it doesn't seem real. Yes. Remember to love yourself. See ya.